All right, hello. Thank you for joining us. Let's go ahead and get started. I have us right at the bottom of the hour. My name is Thomas Meredith, and I'm the Vice President of Marketing here at the Resource Management Institute. And on behalf of the RMI, I would like to welcome you to today's Power Up session, Maximizing Benefit from Your PSA or PPM Tool. We have a lot to get covered here in a short window with just 30 minutes. So let me cover just a few things, and then I'll get out of the way. We are recording the session today. Once we get that processed, you'll receive an email with a link to the recording. And we also will have it up on the RMI site as well. So you can watch the recording there on resourcemanagementinstitute.com. I have made a PDF copy of the deck available. It's in the handouts window of your GoToWebinar panel. So you can download that if you want. And also, we will be taking questions. We'll have a brief Q&A at the end because it is a short window for our 30-minute session today. It'll be a brief Q&A, but as we're going through the content, please enter your questions in the questions window of the GoToWebinar panel, and we'll record those and dive right into them at the end of the session. All right, that covers what I needed to do. Let's get started. Starting us off today is the Managing Director of the RMI, Randy Mislovic. Randy, welcome. I'll hand it off to you.
Perfect. Thank you, Thomas. Appreciate it. And I want to thank everyone for joining us today. My name is Randy Mislovic. As Thomas mentioned, I'm Managing Director of the Resource Management Institute. I would like to give a special thanks and shout out to Maven Link, our sponsor for this Power Up session. Maven Link delivers enterprise class software as a service that transforms how service organizations work with the distributed teams, contractors, and clients around the globe. So thanks to Maven Link as our sponsor. We are going to start us off this morning, a terrific topic, maximizing benefit from your PSA and PPM tool. I know that's a hot topic on the minds of a lot of folks today. I thought I would start by giving a brief introduction to the RMI for those of you who are not familiar, and then I'll pass the baton to Wade Little, who's going to discuss the topic of the day around PSA PPM tools. The RMI, in a nutshell, is dedicated to the advancement of resource and workforce management, thought leadership, best practices, and standards, globally recognized credentials to certify resource and workforce management expertise. We are 100 miles deep in resource management and are trying to working to build a community interest around resource management. We've, I'll just say, more than well on our way to doing that, thanks to a lot of you who are helping us advance the discipline of resource management. If you haven't been to our website, I would encourage you to do so. The resourcemanagementinstitute.com. I'll say the first number one great thing about the RMI is you can join for free. And with it, once you join, you get access and opportunities to collaborate with your industry peers and with experts at the Resource Management Institute through a variety of events. We've got community tools that you can interact with your other company peers through, and a number of things. So events like our Power Up today would be a good example of that. And opportunities to innovate. We have a terrific certification program, which I'll cover at the end, that teaches a commercial grade process for resource management for both professional consulting services organizations and enterprise IT. And once someone goes through, that gets an opportunity to get access to our RMCP toolkit. And then last is the opportunity to get educated. We have numerous offerings, including the certification program, but we also recently announced an intro to resource management course that's been quite well received in the marketplace as well. So if you haven't joined the RMI, I would encourage you to do it. Again, it's free to do. It's simple and easy. You can opt in and opt out whenever you want, and we hope you find some value in participating with us. So with that, I'm going to move us to the topic of the day, maximizing benefit from your PSA PPM tool. I'd like to introduce Wade Little, our practice leader for our technology practice at RTM Consulting, which is the parent company of the Resource Management Institute. With that, Wade, I'll turn the agenda over to you.
Thank you so much, Randy. Very thrilled to be here to talk with you all about something near and dear to my heart. And I guess before we get started, just a little bit about myself. As Randy said, I work for RTM Consulting, and I lead our technology practice, where we focus on PSA and PPM tools. Prior to RTM, I spent almost 30 years at various other companies, primarily the Big Five, working on technology projects. I've done everything from IT strategy all the way down to true technology delivery. One of the things that I've learned is that technology is not a panacea. It's not a be-all, end-all. You need to combine it with good process and good people. So firm believer that you need the people, the process, and the technology to drive true enterprise value. So with that, Randy, let's get to it here. So speaking of process, RTM has a process-oriented solution for resource management called just-in-time resourcing, or in its abbreviated state, JITR. I'm not going to talk a lot about JITR today. If you're interested in learning more, please visit our website. We've got a lot of information and white papers you can download. What I will say or reinforce is that technology enablement is an essential element of each of these capabilities. Now, we could probably spend several of these power-ups talking about all the features and functions that a PSA or PPM tool could or should have to enable good resource management. Unfortunately for today, I have about 15 minutes. So I've distilled this down to what I believe are the 5 most important things that I think a PSA or PPM tool should have to support the resource management process or function. They're listed here to the right, and I'm going to take you through each one of them. All right. So Randy, next slide. So the first one on the list is resource matching, and at its core, this is just flat out table stakes. I should be able to take a request, search for a resource, and assign that resource. Pretty basic function. This is the most basic function that in any PSA tool or PPM tool should support this. Furthermore, you should be able to search and staff in the same tool. I know a lot of people out there who are not using a PSA or a PPM tool. They'll do the searching offline in a spreadsheet, and then they'll have to swivel chair back to their PSA or PPM tool and then actually put a name to the assignment. There's all sorts of challenges with that. At minimum, you're having to maintain information in multiple places, and it's always not optimal. You should be able to do this all in one tool, ideally with minimal clicks, and perhaps even something as simple as drag and drop. So you find the resource, drag it, and drop it onto the assignment. When you're searching, you should also be able to search for things like role. So maybe I'm looking for a project manager, or by location, or by skill. So if I'm trying to find a technical consultant who knows Microsoft.NET located in California, I should be able to search for those things and then staffed based on the best fit. And then finally, and something I think is super important, I should be able to collaborate with key stakeholders within the tool. So, hey, this assignment requires on-site. Joe is available to travel Monday through Thursday, but not Friday. Is this okay? Yes, that should be fine. There are always conversations that are taking place, and ideally, there's little to no offline email or phone conversations, and then having to resort to the whole he said, she said. So all the notes and back and forth should be able to be captured within the tool. All right, so that's resource matching. The second item on the list is resourcing before a project is sold, or in the case of PPM, before the project is approved internally. And the idea here is to be proactive rather than reactive. So how many times do you get a request on a Wednesday, today's Wednesday, or Thursday, or heaven forbid, on Friday that says, I have a project starting on Monday and I need boots on the ground, and you're scrambling to find bodies? This is not a good situation. More often than not, it leads to delivery issues, client satisfaction issues, lower margins, all sorts of bad things. Another situation I've seen is where you've just staffed a key resource because he or she was available and maybe it wasn't the most strategic project, but you wanted to get them onto a project, you wanted to get them busy. Now, a week or two later, there's a huge strategic project that was just sold or approved, and that resource would be a difference maker. So a better practice is to build out the staffing plan before the project is sold or approved, earmark or soft book those resources, move the puzzle pieces around ahead of time, and get the best fit for the best projects. Your PSA or PPM tool should support the ability to do this, and you should be able to see who's hard booked versus who's soft booked. You can then deal with all the conflicts before they happen and make the best decision overall for the organization, rather than it being too late in the process. Now, typically, this requires integration with either your CRM system, if you're a PSA tool, or your strategic planning system, if you're in a PPM tool. That's the technical part. At minimum, it requires some process integration, right? You need the cooperation from your sales teams for PSA, or your strategic planning teams for PPM. You've got to have visibility into that demand. So again, this is another example of a people, process, and technology coming together. All right, so next on the list is what if analysis. And so the idea here is that you should be able to model various scenarios. You're not always going to have a perfect answer, and resource management, as we all know, involves trade-offs. So when you can model various scenarios, you can see the impact of switching in or out certain resources. So, what happens if I apply a discount? Or what happens if I use an offshore team or an onshore team? Or what happens if I use Joe rather than Tom? Right? The tool should enable me to do this, and I should then be able to see the impact on the project margins and overall conflicts and things like that. From there, I can perhaps get more eyes on the various scenarios by other stakeholders in the organization, and again, make the best decision for the organization as a whole. Now, this is modeling scenarios perhaps for a single assignment or a project, but I should also be able to do some what-if analysis at a more macro level or an organizational level via some sort of a dynamic master resource schedule or console, right? So I should be able to see the entire organization or parts of it by region or geography or practice, and who's on what project and for how long. And then I should be able to do some changes, like I see this particular resource has availability during the week that I need them, except for Thursday and Friday. What if I shifted their assignment to make them available for those 2 days? What does that do? Does it impact a project that they're rolling onto downstream, right? What are the downstream impacts? I should be able to see that. All right, so that's what-if analysis. Next on the list is skills management, and quite frankly, this is one that I think is fairly underutilized in what I've seen. The reality, however, is that very rarely is a customer looking for just anyone. They want someone specific, right? They want someone with specific skills. They're looking for somebody that knows Java or C++ or .NET, or maybe a specific product in your own company's portfolio. Maybe it's, and in fact, most likely, it's multiple skills. And I know I don't have to tell you how important it is to get the person with the right skills onto a project. So when I'm searching for this resource to match to this assignment, I should be able to search by skill or by multiple skills. I should be able to do this fairly easy. I should be able to see the best fit, right? Where the criteria is met, where it isn't met. Again, we talked about trade-offs. Sometimes this is about trade-offs. So maybe this person meets 3 of the criteria, but not the 4th. So can I live with that? I should have in my skills database, I should be able to represent things like certifications, or denote if someone has security clearance, or if they have visa, for example. The tool should also be able to support process to keep these things up to date, perhaps through some sort of a UI. The consultant comes in, updates those skills, and then gets those routed for approval by a manager, as an example. So skills management, very underutilized, but very critical in the staffing process, and any PSA or PPM tool should support that. All right, last but certainly not least is capacity management and forecasting. So thus far, what we've talked about is what I would call more tactical. It's been about searching for and assigning a specific resource or resources to a project. Capacity management is much more broad and more strategic. This is about looking at the organization either in its entirety or by certain segments, for example, again, by region or by practice, in some cases, perhaps even by role. And the idea here is I should be able to see both my supply and my demand. I know some people have done capacity management or capacity planning based on trends in history. So I did this much business with this many people last year. This year I expect 20% more business, so I need 20% more people, and that might be fine at a super macro level, but I need a bottoms up view, one that shows that I might be fine in January and February with capacity, but we just won this huge project that's starting in March, goes through July, and I don't have enough people. So I need to do something about it. I need to hire people, or I need to find contractors. So it you need to be able to see those peaks and valleys. And if I'm doing all the things that we talked about on the previous slides, and I have visibility into the demand, I should be able to see these peaks and valleys and plan accordingly. Sort of on the flip side of that, I should also be able to see the organization at a glance and see the holes. So where I have utilization gaps. So maybe on the whole, I'm fine. So I'm hitting my targeted utilization of 75 or 80%, but there are resources who are just underutilized, and the tool should show that. And if I have a governance process around capacity management, I can then have the discussion with my peers or other stakeholders. Well, why is Joe resource underutilized? And how do we get him busy? Right? I can have that conversation using the tool at my disposal, and the tool should help facilitate. Ideally, I should also be able to see this view by role. So, I can see that I'm running low on project managers, and so again, I need to do something about that. Either go hire more people, or look into a contractor pool. And then the last point I'll say to wrap it up is that resource management is absolutely a critical function in the organization. It drives everything else. All the things that we talked about around staffing and the resource plans and staffing ahead of projects, they drive the resource forecasts, the cost forecast, and even the revenue forecast for PSA, example for T&M projects, right? So it's important to have good resource management process and supporting tools. Otherwise, there's very little fidelity in the data and suboptimal decision making. So with that, Randy, it was pretty quick. Back over to you.
Okay, perfect. And I'm going to, this is Randy again, I'm going to keep Wade with us to answer some questions. And if you have questions you want to tee up, use the questions box and submit those. We'll get to as many of those as we can. And while you're doing that, I just got a few things I want to discuss briefly. Wade, mentioned the importance of resource management. Both our research and numerous other organizations that track project performance, resource management is the #1 industry inhibitor to good project performance. And so organizations just got to get better at that. And so a couple of ways that the Institute can help you with that is, one is we've got a very unique certification program called the RMCP program. It's a first of its kind program for resource managers to learn best practices. You get access to a toolkit nobody else does, and to collaborate with your industry peers. We have more than 200 companies that have invested in putting people through this program. In some cases, lots of resource managers through the program. And with it, by the way, you get a commercial grade process, which is defined in our just-in-time resourcing solution that you can take away and then modify to your requirements, so as opposed to having to clean sheet and build a resource management process from scratch. We deliver the program two ways, both online as well as in-class. In-class sessions 3 days. The online class is 2 hours a week for 6 weeks with some homework in between. There's a certification program at the end, and it costs just under $1,800 per person to go to this. We do have volume discounts for the larger organizations. And by the way, if you're a PMP from the PMI, you can earn 16 PDUs for the in-class version and 13.25 for the online version by attending the certification course. You can go to our website, resourcemanagementinstitute.com/apply, and see where the upcoming programs are. We actually have one going on right now that is about midway through it, but we've got another in-class coming up in Cincinnati in August, and it's I think there's 6 seats left in that. It's selling out fast. And we've got online sessions starting in August as well. Notice one starts at 9 to 11 p.m., and that's targeted at people outside the United States, or by the way, those of you who are night owls in the U.S. And we have the 9 and 11 sessions starting in the summertime as well. There's a $100 break on the price if you get inside the early bird window. So hope you'll take advantage of that. You know, in addition to or in lieu of, if you wanted to come and learn from both us and your peers, is we are running our first Resource Management Global Symposium. It's being held October 3rd and 4th in Dallas, Texas at the beautiful Anatole Hilton Hotel. So come learn, collaborate, and innovate with your industry peers and with the RMI staff. We're going to focus entirely for a day and a half on resource management topics. We've got some great speakers lined up, as well as panel sessions and lots of networking opportunities for you and people interested in resource management. So hope you'll look at that. By the way, the price for this is it's $995, but there's a 20% discount available till June 30th. And if you are an RMCP, you get another 5% off on top of that. You also, if you attend this, you can earn 8 PCUs for those of you who are RMCPs wanting to renew your certifications when that comes up. And if you're a PMP, there are 8 PDUs available for attending this particular symposium as well. So seats are selling out fast for the symposium as well. We've had great demand for it. I hope you'll join us for that. So just before I get to the Q&A, I want to thank again our sponsor, Maven Link, for supporting the Resource Management Institute and sessions like this Power Up, so we can deliver hopefully helpful thought leadership to all of you. So with that, I'm going to move to various questions that we have here. I'll start with one. Is that, you know, how early in the process, Wade, do you think you should soft book resources?
Yeah, so thanks, Randy. That's a great question, and one that we get oftentimes, and unfortunately, it's not a one-size-fits-all answer. Different organizations have different sales rhythms and different close cycles. Sometimes things are closed within weeks or months, and sometimes it's you know, a much longer sales cycle. The key is to balance enough early warning signal with also having, you know, minimal changes. You want something that's fairly solid. If you're constantly going in and changing the plan, then, you know, maybe that's not quite as helpful. So that part of it is a little bit more of an art than a science. I would say that the key from a technology standpoint is that your technology should have the flexibility to support that.
Okay, great. Okay, good answer. And moving down the line of questions, there's a second question here. Will you offer a second online class for the second half of 2018? And the answer is yes. There'll be a fourth quarter class both on site as well as online, and those will be. If you send a note to info at the resourcemanagementinstitute.com, we probably already have those dates defined. They just may not be on the website yet. So let's answer that question. There are actually three questions. They're all around the same question that I'll aggregate into. Are there any recommended PSA or PPM tools? Wade?
Another great question. And what I would say again is that it really depends. It depends on your requirements. It depends on your budget. It depends on a number of different factors. This is a shameless plug here, but something that we spend time helping customers through. Again, understanding and defining your requirements, and then matching those to a vendor that would best meet your needs. So if you're interested, please reach out to me after or offline.
Okay. Wade, another question here. Tell me what you mean by resource schedules driving time, cost, and revenue forecast.
Great. So oftentimes when you have what I call disparate systems, where you've got bits and pieces of information scattered out, it's in a PSA tool, everything is in this, or a PPM tool, everything is in the same tool. So when you're updating your schedules, the start and the end date, and how many hours per week a person is on an assignment, along with that resource, you have their cost rate, you have their bill rate for that assignment. That's all contained within the PSA tool. And so if I have all of that, that resource plan now drives my cost forecast, and it also drives my revenue forecast. So as things are updated or changed, all of that then follows. And so that's what I mean by building this, this from the ground up.
Okay, excellent. And just one more here. I'll try to pick off here myself is, are there specific tools you'd recommend for specific professional services industries like accounting, for example? Wade, do you want to take a shot at that one?
Yeah, I'll take a crack. I mean, I think it's a little bit of the same answer as I had before. There are tools that are more geared towards those industries, accounting or engineering, as an example. But again, it's not one tool; it's multiple tools, and again, it's going to depend on what your specific requirements are as to budget and so forth, as to which one is going to be the best fit.
Okay. And then we have another moment here. There's one question just popped up. Wade, I'll read it to you. With regard to roles and skills, if specific technology isn't known yet, would you initially build a staffing model using high-level roles to soft book, followed later leveraging skills to update the plan?
Absolutely. Great question. Great question. So, I would start with, at a minimum, role. I need a project manager. That at least starts to narrow the search, right? And as I've mentioned before, it's not good enough to say any resource, but narrowing it down by, well, I need a project manager, and there's project managers across all sorts of industries or disciplines or whatever. It at least starts to narrow the search, and then as you learn more about a specific skill set, well, it's more than just a project manager. I need a project manager that speaks Spanish, or I need a project manager that really knows banking. Then you can start to get a little bit more granular. But absolutely, at the outset, in any information you have, it's better to put that information in your request sooner rather than later.
Perfect. All right. Well, I'll conclude just saying thank you for joining us. We appreciate your commentary and great questions from the audience. We'll be holding our next Power Up session in the third quarter. Information on that is available on our website. I hope you'll go out there and check us out. We run one of these every quarter on a topic of interest. And again, I want to thank everyone for joining us. Thank our sponsor, MavenLink. And with that, we'll end the session.